Welcome to Flip the Script with Vic, a sacred space for honest, unfiltered, and sometimes taboo conversations between women walking the path of truth, healing, and soul remembrance. What started as my personal exploration has become a communal prayer, a podcast devoted to amplifying women's stories in their own words. I'm your host, Victoria Nielsen, intuitive healer, mama, and space holder for the divine feminine. Here, we gather as cycle breakers, mothers, mystics, creatives, witches, and wild ones, flipping the script on what it really means to be a woman in today's world. Through raw interviews, intimate solo casts, and brave conversations, we'll chat about motherhood, mysticism, psychedelics, spirituality, and more. You'll be reminded that your voice matters, that your truth matters, that you're here to walk in beauty. So be the prayer, and let's flip the script. Are you ready? Let's jump on in. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Flip the Script with Vic. It's your host, Victoria Nielsen. As always, I am so excited to be here to chat with another woman, to hear her story, to learn more about just her and what she's doing in the world. And today we have Marygrace Anderson. She's a certified hypnotherapist, a psychotherapist, and founder of MG Hypnosis. I'm just so excited to chat with her because I had an experience when I was in college with hypnosis, and I feel like there's probably a lot of stigmas and a lot of things that you hear, Marygrace, that probably aren't very true about your field and what you do. But yes, welcome to the podcast so you can debunk them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited, and hello to everyone listening. And I'm excited to share my story as well as being able to inspire you to do other things that you really want to do. So where would you like to begin with my story?
Yeah, the beginning. I was reading that kind of stopping smoking was your inspiration, but I would love to hear that story because I do feel like all of us have some type of addiction, right? Whether that is an actual addiction to smoking or maybe the words we use or the patterns and behaviors in our life. And to me, that's one of the first steps is like awareness, right, of those patterns so that you can then break them. So I would love to hear kind of what was the impetus for you to want to stop smoking and how that really kind of changed the trajectory of your life.
Okay, and then we'll flip to your story about hypnosis, and then I'll probably be telling you yes or no whether that's more realistic or not, because hypnotherapy is slightly different from hypnosis.
Perfect.
I was under a lot of pressure years ago with a new baby. I had my own company. I was having a loft conversion, and I pretty much was just to that level of just stress. And my sister said, well, I'll watch the baby for the night. And I wasn't a drinker or a smoker, but that night I decided to go get a bottle of wine and a packet of cigarettes. And I didn't smoke, literally. But somehow in my little brain, it thought like that's going to sound like an escape because I see a lot of other people doing it. And I proceeded to spend the night drinking and smoking. And then I thought, why did I do that? And I'd see other people smoking. I'd think, ugh, disgusting. So let's say a month goes by. Now Granny says, I'll watch the baby for a night, and I thought I'm going back down to the store, getting a bottle of wine and a packet of cigarettes. So this began to be a habit where now I was looking forward to it, and that's when I thought, wow, now you have a problem. I'm not a smoker.
Do you think, Marygrace, like at the time, were there a lot of like cigarette ads at the time to you, was that just something that had been promoted as an escape? And then once you started getting addicted to the nicotine, it was like, oh yes, I'm looking forward to that. It's just so surprising.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, even to me, because the rest of the time I was thinking no and not having it. And seriously, 2 months could go by. But the moment I felt like I didn't have to be responsible, I kind of then switched off. And the thing is I couldn't go see a doctor or my GP here in the UK because I wasn't actually a smoker and I wasn't actually like an alcoholic. And a friend then said, go and see this hypnotherapist. And I promise you that at the time, you could not even Google hypnotherapist.
I bet they were like, what is this thing?
Yeah, this is over 20 years ago. So I went to see the hypnotherapist and I came out of the session. I distinctly remember that moment where I came out of the trance and I thought, wow, I want to be able to do this for everyone. And it changed my life. I immediately went to train for it. And my background from uni, I went to Regis College in Colorado, was to for sociology and psychology, but I was too young. I didn't know about couples having a child. So I just kind of put it on hold. And all of a sudden, this gave me the opportunity to help men, women, children, teens, and with a wide variety of problems, issues. And that's what was so empowering about my job today. So
That's so
I love it.
amazing that you turned,
Yeah.
I mean, that thing that was this big hurdle or, problem in your life. And not only did you solve it for yourself, but then you said, hey, I can help solve it for other people. And I really want to. And I think, it's so interesting. Motherhood had that shift for you because motherhood, of course, had a shift for me as well. I have two young
Oh,
kids,
yeah.
but that, milestone really awoke in me kind of this question of, what am I doing with my life, but
Yeah.
also all these inner demons truly of the way that I was raised and, kind of the automatic repetitive patterns that you just do because that's how they were formed within you when you were young. And that it's up to us to kind of stop that cycle. But it started with the kids and I never would have addressed any of these things otherwise. And I feel like,
Yeah.
maybe your problem wouldn't have presented itself without children, but maybe it would have in a different way.
Yes, and I'm just blessed that I was fortunate to have that experience because I would never have considered it had it not happened. And it's just that knockout of what happens in your life for a reason, and it was a good reason, and it stopped me from potentially a life of really going down a road I couldn't recover from for years. So it was just that automatic determination to stop. And now I know so much about hypnotherapy that I'm empowering others. People will say, oh my gosh, you changed my life. And I said, I didn't do it. It was there in you and I just helped you. And that's the key is people think, wow, this is like magic. It's not magic. You have that desire. And I can't help anyone who doesn't have that desire to make the change or want help. And then
That seems very key, that distinction. And I would love for you to explain exactly what hypnotherapy is and what psychotherapy is and kind of the difference. And even you were saying, because I said hypnosis, thinking it's kind of the same thing, but it sounds like it's very much not. So I would love for, the listeners to maybe have a better understanding of kind of what is the definition of each.
Well, the interesting thing about hypnosis and whatever you're doing, CBD, CPT, hypnosis, seeing a therapist, they're all the same. The only difference is that using hypnosis, we induce a trance.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the main difference. And we're not like a talk therapy. We're very much a results-based therapy. So we don't look at the past and hash over those things that you can't change. Our starting point is here now and what we can change going forward. And sometimes we need to let go of things from the past, but really it's not something where we discuss it over and over in those patterns. We're breaking your pattern and saying, right, from today, I can change. And that's,
That's really powerful to say that, it doesn't have to be this over and over thing, that it can be very quickly solved or very quickly moved through in a different way. And I did feel that in my physical body. So I'm trying to remember if I went to an actual hypnotherapist. I must have. So in college, I used to be a journalist. I was a writer. And so I was always sent to go try these different experiences or spend the day doing a thing and then write about it. So I went to a hypnotherapist, I believe. And I will say I was very hungover from the night before, like very much so. So I was already a little nauseous. I wasn't feeling great, but they put me in the trance. And I can't remember what the thing was that I was working towards. I feel like it was probably feeling better because at that moment I felt awful. So I was like, I just want to feel better. Please, hypnotize me to feel better. And then Marygrace, I kid you not, he finished the session. All of a sudden I was like, I have to run to the bathroom. I was like, I don't feel good. I have to I threw up. I came back. I felt totally different. Totally different. And granted, yes, maybe I was hungover and probably maybe just needed to throw up, but I really felt he moved something within me that then came out as this physical manifestation of what was making my body feel bad. And so I will say I was a little freaked out at the time because didn't really know anything about energy healing or really healing in general or any type of therapy.
Yes.
So to have that happen, I was like, wait, was that me? Was that him? I don't know. But then afterwards, the crazy experience was more, he had I guess a former patient. I don't know. I had someone harass and call me and like fuss about the fact that I went to a hypnotherapist, and like it was a very strange experience. So I tied that into it as well, which is not normal for people.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is because it is individual for for each person, meaning that I can do a group of 10 people, and the way I design the course would mean that it'll be important. My journey, what I would describe to them, will only hit the one person. So if you're trying to quit smoking, lose weight, phobia, overcome fear, move on, the moment that I start putting it to a personal level for you, then you take it and you run with it, because your mind is always going to be much more powerful than what I can do. And everyone's experience is, there's 21 phenomenon of hypnosis, like time distortion. Some people think it was 5 minutes, some people think it was 2 hours, and it was like 25 minutes. But you also have, the feeling of lightness. Some people feel they can't move. Some people have the past life regression. Some people have totally can't remember a word I said and can remember everything I said a week later. So it's just really interesting.
That's crazy. But and is it because you're getting them into those like theta brainwave states, essentially, and so they are more open, I guess, and susceptible. Yes. And in that state, you can have things come up and remember that have been, I think, held in, deep parts of the brain, locked away, because is it because your body and your mind are so relaxed, I guess, that it's able to kind of work its magic?
It is, and that's one of the reasons that when people say, can I be hypnotized? It's like, yes, you can, but, no one can be hypnotized against their will. So people never come to see me who don't want to be hypnotized. And sometimes people are saying, "No, I don't like the word trance," just think of it as relaxation, because you're constantly being in a trance state all day long, a waking trance state. So when you read a book, yeah, when you're reading a book, you're in a trance state. When you're watching a movie, you're in a trance state. Hypnobirthing, when you commute, if you go to do the same commute, you're in a trance state because you don't have to think about it, but your mind also is able, your unconscious mind, this incredible mind of ours, is able to say, don't walk right across the street, but you pretty much don't have to think about those things.
No, so, I had, the other day driving the kids to school, I had that exact thought where I was like, I'm on such autopilot right now. Like, it's good, I guess, but also like, whoa, no, like be more present in the moment. Because that unconscious part of the brain can just take over. And I do think so many of us live our lives unconsciously, and it's so easy to. We're so distracted, we're in a trance state, not just because of the way we live our lives, but we're putting ourselves in trance states, right? When we're scrolling Instagram, we're essentially choosing to be checked out in that way. And so, if someone had never kind of ever heard of the hypnotherapy before, and they were struggling, and they wanted maybe a tip for how to be a bit more conscious in their life, or how to stop some of these habits, what would you share with them?
Well, the main things is starting from the point where you have to really make the decision that you want to stop or start something. And that's what the first starting point is. And then it's doing, depending on what it is. I mean, no one comes to see me, as I said, without really wanting to make the change. So once you do that, it's creating a plan. So when someone, I send someone a form, they fill in things for me, including, are you religious? Who's your hero? Who inspires you? Because I want to know these things when we're doing a one-on-one session, because it's more powerful for me. If you're very spiritual, I want to bring something like that into the session, because it's that much more meaningful, and it helps them to be inspired. So everything that you can possibly do, the meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, listening to good music, just all these things in our lives that can really just starting. And sometimes that is the old adage, just do it. And you will find that each day, sometimes it's just the start that it is. And the interesting thing is, sorry, Victoria, the one more thing is that when people will call me and say, I want to stop smoking, and they haven't convinced me, I say, please don't come see me, because you're going to fail. Like until you're at the point where like your wife can't send you, you can't do it for any other reason except for yourself, but they know it. And sometimes they've come to see me maybe 4 times in my career where I've said when they're actually there, you're not ready, but come back and see me when you are. And everyone listening to you right now will know that it's on their mind, and it may be a month, but they'll come back, but then they're ready. So it's playing on your listener's mind, whatever it is. If you've got like a bad habit, if you've got an addiction to something, whether it's sugar, drinking, things like that, just losing weight, all those little things that are niggling in your mind, there's going to be a trigger that's going to say, enough is enough. I need to stop, or I need to start.
Exactly. Well, and just not letting it get to the point where like the decision is not yours anymore, right? That like there is some type of intervention because you've gone on too long with this thing. But I feel like, if you're listening to this episode, if you were interested, follow that intuition, follow that nudge, because it's not going to leave you alone. Until you face it, until you work with it, until you go after it. And it's always a choice. But until that why is there, that why is going to be the most important thing. And if it's not a why that means enough to you, you're not going to follow through with it. Like I remember, before my second son was born, I went on a cleanse and was like so dedicated to it. And people couldn't understand why. The very last day I was at a barbecue, I made my own like Brussels sprouts with like nothing on it, because I was like, oh, it's the last day of the cleanse. Everyone's like eating meaty barbecue and like stuffing their faces. And I was like, no, I'm committed. I want to have a baby. This is my why. Like, I'm going to see this through. But if my why hadn't have been that strong, I maybe wouldn't have. Or it's scary to try anything new. Like that's just how we're hardwired as humans. And that fear is trying to keep us safe. Our brains are doing our jobs, but sometimes we have to walk through that fear to then find the thing that's better for us. Because I'm sure you must see, like we have such neuroplasticity in our brains. Like we have such an ability to change as humans. Do people come in and have just like one session and then immediately are like, stop the bad habit, or how does that kind of work? Or can you break any stigmas around how quickly or how effective hypnotherapy is?
Yeah, hypnotherapy is incredibly effective. I mean, that's as I said in the beginning, we're results-based therapy. And when people come to see me for smoking, it's one session. If it's
really? One session only?
A phobia, yes. But where the difficulty is weight loss, because weight loss involves a lot more than just eating an addiction. It's usually a trauma. So that will take more sessions. But for most things, it's 1 or 2 sessions. And the second session sometimes is just people love it and they want a top up. And I like to think of it as a massage for the mind. We go and have our bodies massaged all the time, but to actually have someone telling you, you can do it and you got it, just that inspiration and extra belief that, yes, I can make this happen. And the other important thing is that you will be so happy. You're not leaving behind anything that you didn't want. You're actually, realize that the moment that you actually do it, that within a few weeks, it's not long, that you will all of a sudden just think, wow. And that inspires people to do other things, like more beneficial things in their lives.
I could see that because you take that baby step, right? You get that hit of dopamine, like you did it right. Exactly. And then it's fuel to do it longer, which I think in today's society is super helpful. We are, we want things faster. We want things more efficient. We want things more quickly. We want that quick hit of dopamine. I feel like, why would you not do this for yourself if you're really trying to make a change? And it's been hard for you. This seems like such a great way to help yourself and help your brain, and make better choices. Like we were talking about earlier, that conscious living, that authentic living is really important to me because of all of the years that I walked around living unconsciously. And I feel like so many of us are. If you're listening to this podcast, most likely not, or you're waking up, right? But part of these conversations is sharing what's available to you and sharing these methods, because I think, people need to know about the MG Anderson method. They need to know that 90% of your clients are seeing results. They need to know this is an option, because I think, again, like we said in the beginning, there's a bit of a stigma around it, or, people think like you're going to brainwash them or you're taking over their brain, and you are taking over their brain, but not in a bad way.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you're not really taking over the brain. It's in the state where it really, really helps you. And that's one of the things that when we were talking about things that other people can do, you can do your own self-hypnosis. I
Oh,
mean, I just
really?
finished so I just finished a course on teaching people on Udemy how to learn self hypnosis. It's really easy, but it's being able to use it effectively. So you have to have like one goal. So the purpose is to teach you how to set those objectives instead of saying, I'm going to try to lose weight. It's going to have I am going to lose weight using those key words and also using visualizations, seeing yourself being thinner or stop smoking. You're going to see yourself in 6 months feeling healthier, fitter, younger, looking younger from not smoking. Like things like that you can do yourself by just learning how to phrase your affirmations using the visualizations, and it's empowering again because you're taking control, you're doing it, and it's a lifelong habit that you have that's like inspiring, and then you can change what
Absolutely.
you want to focus on.
I love that because one, it's also less overwhelming because you're like, okay, this is the one thing I'm going to focus on, and then maybe I'll focus on this next thing. And I think too that that's a good reminder to folks listening and just those on the healing journey. We can kind of get on that hamster wheel of healing. I feel like sometimes where we're like, okay,
Yes.
we got this one thing, and now we got this next thing. That you can take your time, and that you can dive deep in one thing, and that like it will unfold exactly as it's meant to. But that having it as a tool for you is, I would love to actually try that, like paired with Kundalini yoga or something. Kundalini yoga is my favorite because it has the repetitive body movements that kind of help you get out of your head and more into your heart and kind of into that trance-like state.
I love yoga.
Yeah, so I mean, you can combine them and then you put those positive affirmations, which that's so important that you phrase them correctly because it's not the past tense. You know, you currently have them, make them specific, make them actionable. If you're in the
Exactly.
corporate world, you understand, right? It's like that, not SWOT analysis, but what is it? Every time you used to do goals, you used to have to do like make them
Yeah.
actionable, make them, easier, make
I
them
can
short
never
term.
remember
Like,
that.
yeah, right? Like think about it that way, for your healing goals as well.
Well, the nice thing is that it complements all the other things that you can do in your life that are beneficial. I mean, just even if you're walking, using some time there to do meditation. If you're doing yoga, that's what we do. Shavasana is just that time to just stop and even breathing. People underestimate the power of just your breath to stop, to
Yes.
release. People, as far as the top three things that people come to see a hypnotherapist for, anxiety and stress is the top three. And it's just, if people would just learn to just stop, take a deep breath in, hold it, and just breathe out and do that 6 times, that'll reset. And you can say, right, now what can I do next that will make me feel better? Just that's so
Mm.
powerful in itself. 1 minute, 6 breaths, and that can reset your whole mindset.
It really can. And it's one of the things I come back to a lot. Breathwork helped me so much as a new mom. Helped
Yes.
me come back to that calmness and that presence. And we're often holding our breath truly in life. And when we hold on to the breath, we're holding on to the thoughts in the mind. So it's no wonder then that we have anxiety, that we have these circling thoughts because we're not giving ourselves the space and the capacity to release them, to let them have a little space, to let them have a little bit of room. So I love that you're sharing that because that's exactly what I believe in. And that mindfulness is even more key, I think, nowadays when we're constantly being bombarded with information. We're constantly being, things are thrown at us for us to consume. I think we have to consciously stop, take a
Yes.
pause, and breathe and say, do I even want to consume that? Or what is that next thing that's going to make me feel better? I'm trying to teach my little sons that now after they have like a big temper tantrum or a moment. What's the one thing, one small thing you can do that will make you feel incrementally better in this moment? So, man, if I had learned this at their age instead of at 30 plus,
Yes,
imagine
I
the
know.
world.
That's why I really love working with children because that's the one they have no preconception that it's not going to work. So they're easily again they use their imaginations to solve their own problem without even realizing it.
That's
But
so
just
cool.
teaching them that it is such an important age that from that moment that they can do little things that they have the control, because there's a great diagram. I don't know if your listeners have, I'm sure they've seen it on media, but where what's in our control, what's out of our control. So some things you can't control, like a tantrum, your in-laws, your job, someone being promoted, like these things you can't control, but you can always control your breath, your thoughts about it, and what the beneficial things that you can take action to do. I mean, even if that means you need to go and take a break and walk away or say no, but those are the things that you can control. And that is the one thing in life that's lovely to know, that you do have some choices that you can control. But at the moment when you think, I can't do anything and this is happening, you can.
Absolutely. I always tell my students, life is happening for you, not to you. And so it's your choice in every moment how you want to respond to that. And the good thing is that you can choose again in every moment. So, maybe you don't, you don't make a decision that you love the first time. Okay. Like perfect example, last night I'm solo parenting, the kids, I thought it would be a great idea for everyone to sleep in the same bed together. It was not. Mainly for me, I got overtouched, overstimulated. I did not like it. You know what? I'm going to make a different choice tonight. Okay. We're going to not do that again.
And that's part of us being human, is those are the mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes. And it's like, the intention was great, but this isn't going to work.
Exactly. But it maybe, actually it kind of light bulbed in my brain, something I'd wanted to ask you earlier and forgot about. So a lot of the things that people come to you for, I think, have a stigma or a lot of shame around, perhaps, right? The quitting smoking, having too much anxiety, not maybe having a beautiful self-image. Maybe people come to you for self-harm or some of those other traumas and things. How do you help people, or, how do you deal with the shame that, comes up sometimes? I think it's not talked about enough. And I think people think shame and maybe the grief or some of those more low vibration emotions are bad. I don't personally see them as bad. I think they are a reflection of what we've been taught or what needs to be released. But yeah, I was just curious, how do you deal with that, especially perhaps in women that you work with? Do you see a lot of kind of shame, and how do you combat that?
That is an excellent question. And the thing is that I always put it to people is, how would you feel if your best friend or someone you really cared about came and asked you the question, said, I'm struggling with this. And this is, we think we're stuck in our own little world. We think, successful people have never been in our position. Yeah. We've all been there in some situation where we just didn't feel comfortable, or it can be an executive who's been promoted and all of a sudden it is a phobia of public speaking. It's just like, you never know what's going to hit someone, and you can go your whole life. I've heard clients who are really established women, and all of a sudden their husband has an affair, and they have this feeling all of a sudden it's them, and they're embarrassed by it. And it's like, it's not your fault. And then they feel kind of like powerless. And it's just, if you think about it, it's again a life adventure, and we're faced with these things, and we have a choice always. We're going to make it bad, or we're going to make it good. This is coming back to the whole, you do have some power and you do have some control. So the people that are worried at first when they come to see me, I'm like, read my reviews. I have reviews. All my reviews are 5-star, because it's people sharing. And in our world today, we understand it's okay to have a phobia or a drinking problem, smoking, but do something about it if you're there, because you're talking about it, you're thinking about it. Now take your action, and don't be ashamed, and share your story. That's the most empowering thing, because you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. And we're all there with you for support. No one's going to laugh at you. And would you do that to somebody else? No.
No, you would hopefully, inspire them, shower them with love, and the sharing the story piece is huge, because I think that has helped me along the way for sure. And I know it's why you share your story as well, so that even, anyone coming to you or anyone listening can realize that they can change, and that they don't have to live with these things. That it's not a permanent brand that you have to live with, right? And to your point, that it is more talked about now, that wanting to change these things, that it's far more, I think, accepted than it was, to your point, maybe 20 years ago when you had first started in the field. Actually, I think that's a great kind of segue and question of how has the field changed over the last, 20 years of your career?
Huge.
And is it more acceptable now to actually be a hypnotherapist compared to what it was before?
Great. Yes. And your last point, just of reminding people who are listening that whatever it is that you're struggling with, you are not alone. You're not the first person that's ever had this. So you're definitely not alone. And one of the, hypnotherapy has grown, and here in the UK, it's become, it's one of the alternative therapies that is being considered with regard to our NHS system. You can see a hypnotherapist on the NHS, but it's difficult because of our system here, because the doctors have to then go and fill out a special form to refer it. But, now you can get it on your health insurance and like Cigna or any of the health insurance companies. But it's becoming more and more mainstream. And it's as you would go see, as I said before, for your body, you go and pay for a physio. If you're having trouble with your mind, you go and see a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And the one thing I love over the years is that my toolbox is just, so full. And when someone actually sends me the form and I've had my conversation with them before they come to see me, my brain's already sorted. Like I can just know what I can do to help you. And I've already got the tools ready to show, how you become your own therapist, basically.
I love that. And everyone, needs those tools and needs to be able to provide for themselves in that way. So thank you so much for being here today, Marygrace. Is there anything?
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Like last words of wisdom that you'd want to share with the listeners? And then, of course, please share how folks can get in touch with you, how they can work with you, all of that good stuff.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved it. My main message to anyone listening is hypnotherapy is really such a fantastic therapy to use if you do want to make any changes. You're not alone. It's not scary. It's not something like you've seen on the movies. There's no cluck like a chicken kind of thing happening. And that I just want to empower you to change your life. If you want any information about hypnotherapy and all the frequently asked questions, you can go to mghypnosis.co.uk. And that's MG, obviously short for Marygrace. No, it's a mouthful. But it's easy to find Marygrace Anderson, or, as I suggested earlier, to do the Udemy course and teach yourself self-hypnosis. So it's a tool you'll use for life. But I'm just so thankful that you let me join you today on your show.
Oh, thank you so much, Marygrace. It's so good to have you. If you have been liking this conversation, please like, rate, subscribe, review, share it with another woman who needs to know about this amazing new tool. Well, not new tool that is new to me, I should say, as well as Marygrace and her story. Please go give her a visit. I'm going to look up how I can maybe get a hypnotherapy session with Marygrace, because truly we need to help ourselves out here. So thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys next week. Please be good to one another. I'll see you real soon. Mwah.